Have you ever wanted to do something new and bite off the biggest thing you could find? Well, I'm here today with a fellow coach, athlete, and friend, Lindsay Long, who recently completed the Unbound Gravel 200 race as her very first ultra endurance gravel event. And we're here to share her experiences. And from everything I can tell, having not been there, looking at Facebook and Instagram and everyone else's recounts of it, this was a pretty awesome event this year. So please welcome Lindsay Long to the Be Fierce and Try podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Jill Bartholomew. So Lindsay, would you give us an introduction? Tell us about yourself and like what you're all about.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be able to talk about this event in particular because I had a blast. But brief background on me, I've been a triathlete since 2013 and got into the gravel scene around COVID, like a lot of people, where everything else just was shut down and not happening, but gravel was still kind of going on. So I started gravel riding probably 2021, and it was very eye-opening coming from the road scene, thinking, okay, I'm going to go do this 60 miler and it's going to take me 3 hours. So I'm only going to have three bottles and a little bit of nutrition. And then it takes you 6 hours. So it's hard. I fell in love with it. And outside of that, I have done some cyclocross racing. I think that actually has prepared me well for gravel racing. I've obviously continued with the triathlon scene and worked my way up to Ironman and World Championship Ironman and competed in Kona last October. And so this year, my goal was to take a break from Ironman and do all of the other fun things that I've kind of been putting off. So here is Unbound.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing you at like Placid last year and then at World Championship. I was heading into the Inferno, the energy lab, as you were heading out. And I'm like, hey, Lindsay. And you're like, who the fuck are you?
I don't even know what kind of state I was in at that point. Not a good one.
I think at that point, that was probably like mile 17 for you. I think at that point, we were all like, can we just be done with this at this point?
Right.
All right. I've never ridden gravel. I'm a cyclist, triathlete, have done a bunch of other, sports. And, I keep looking at gravel and I'm like so intimidated by it. So I think going from cycling to cyclocross to gravel to me is like pretty impressive because, gravel, it like cognitively is like, oh yeah, it's just cycling. But I'm like, wait, is it more like mountain biking? And it's like somewhere in between. And I've heard people say that like 1 mile on gravel is like basically the same as like 5 miles not on gravel, on the road. Would you agree with that? Like it feels like it's significantly harder in some ways than road. Although, what do you think?
I for sure have to agree with that. And I think both mentally and physically, I would say that is correct. It's for sure in between road where you can kind of just zone out and kind of zone out mentally, but you find the right power zone or whatever you work with and you just kind of dial it in and just go. When you transfer over to off-road, it's like you have to stay mentally with it and physically with it at all times because you can't just like zone into any one thing. It's a constant play on maintaining your mental acuity because you lose sight at any point in time, and all of a sudden you're falling or taking a tumble. And then as far as paying attention to your body and your power outputs, you constantly have to be assessing, am I pushing too much? How do I go easier on this hill so that I can still push it on the downhill? So it's always like playing mind games when you hit the off-road scene.
So this, you did the 200-mile distance, if I'm not wrong, right? And like, no matter, I guess, who you are, keeping in mind that we both represent like a very, very small portion of the population who actually attacks like basically anything longer than 5 miles, right? 112 miles in an Ironman is a long distance, and a lot of people don't manage to finish it. 200 miles, nearly twice the distance. Like, what made you decide that, like, hey, the first time I do this, we're going to do 200?
I've done a couple 100-mile gravel events, and I think for me, at the end of last year, after doing Kona and kind of reaching that like pinnacle of Ironman and triathlon racing, I took a while to try to figure out what scares me, what excites me, where do I want to go next? Because at that point in time, I wanted a break from Ironman. That didn't mean I wanted a break from doing hard things.
Hmm.
And Unbound just really jumped out and kind of like answered that call. The 100, I'd done it before, so it wasn't too scary and it wasn't too exciting. But the 200 was something that made me once again question, can I actually do this? So I just had to go see.
All right. So tell me about the race. Like it's obviously long distance, right? Tell me about the race. Like what did you experience out there? Like I think most of our listeners are either runners or triathletes and have never done something like this. So like to me, I'm like, oh, it's like a gravel road. It just goes on for a very, very, very long time. But from the photos, it looks a lot more than just a gravel road.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard over the course of 200 miles. Obviously, you encounter a lot of things, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of emotions. Your body goes through different things. So my my whole thing being out there was answering, can I do this?
Mhm.
Can I do this smart? Because truthfully, once you get over a certain distance, it's not necessarily about how good of a rider you are, but how smart can you be and how
Mhm.
adaptable can you be when things go wrong? Because also over that time and that distance, something will go wrong, especially at an Unbound. So we encountered it all out there.
And this is essentially an unsupported race, right?
Basically unsupported. There are so for the 200-mile course, there are 3 stops where you can have support or whether you have somebody for you or whether you've hired somebody that can be there to help you reload. So
And for our listeners who don't quite know the vernacular, unsupported in this context means that there's no SAG. There's no one there to fix you if you break, and there's no aid stations. So you basically need to bring with you everything you're going to need for this ride. And you're saying like on the 200, there's like 3 opportunities for you to have someone there, right?
right. And so the way I went about it was they offer crew for hire and you pay I think it was like $85 and they hire like local people to come out and be your crew. And so they offered it at 40 miles, 100 miles, and then again around 160. So you make your drop bags the day ahead of time and drop them
Mhm.
off for them to take and disperse at the 3 different stops. So outside of that, you have to get yourself from point A to point B and have enough stuff both to take care of your bike and you and get there safely.
So I'm so curious. It sounds like you took them up on this offer.
Yeah, and actually they require it.
Oh, they require it. And what do you put in those drop bags?
Basically, think of it as like an Ironman special needs bag where everything I need to either refill bottles, refill my hydration pack, refill my bento box with nutrition. But yeah, some of the other things you kind of think of like what is going to give me comfort in that time? Like, is that a payday or a Snickers bar?
Mm.
Is it I don't know, cookies, whatever it is, something you can kind of quickly just like reset with.
So I've heard some people putting really crazy things into the special needs bags. At Jacksonville, I heard the craziest to me thing so far is I found out some people put like McDonald's cheeseburgers in there.
I've heard of like whole subs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, oh wow. Like, I don't know. Personally, like I feel like that would be a recipe for disaster in multiple possible ways, but I guess it works for them. Okay. So and do you ride tubed or tubeless?
Tubeless.
Tubeless. Did you have any like mechanicals on this course?
So I feel like I got really lucky. Literally, the only mechanical I had was one drop chain. And I think of all of the possible things that happened to people out there that could have happened to me, I feel like I somehow got away with something.
I feel like if you've ridden long enough in any discipline, you've experienced it all.
Right.
I was riding recently on my road bike, which is what I do most of my outdoor training on. And not only did I break a link on my chain, I broke like half a link and was wondering why it was skipping. I found out when I got home that like the pin was like most of the way out, but my chain ring came like partially loose and was wobbling, which is probably why I broke the pin. And I'm like on a 200-mile race, like just having a drop chain, which could happen at any time, really. That seems incredibly fortunate, awesome, lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the only thing that happened to me out there, but mechanically speaking, like I didn't
Yeah.
have to stop and deal with flat tire. There was, and we can get into too, I mean, there was so much mud. There were so many people just kind of like scattered along the side having to clear out their bike. And I guess I had the right setup. I didn't have to deal with any of that. But I did end up with a crash around mile 40. So
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like first, like tell me like about the race. Like assume that you're talking to someone who's maybe never done one of these. Like, what's it like out there?
yeah, so the race takes place in Kansas, and this is my first time I've ever been to Kansas.
Hmm.
And it's actually quite beautiful. It's just like this vast landscape of like green prairies and farmland, and you can just see for a really long time. You can encounter crazy weather. And like you cannot at any point in time look at your weather app and predict what it's going to be like for the day in Kansas. So for our race in particular, we got a taste of all Kansas has to offer, and that included thunder and lightning storms for hours in the morning to hot and sunny into the 80s and probably what felt like the 90s throughout the majority of the afternoon.
Okay.
So we started around 6:30, and the big difference for me, so this is the biggest gravel race I've ever taken part in. I'm used to being able to roll up to a start line right before it starts. You can kind of like self-seat or make your way to the front. I got there at 6 a.m. and I was already way, way back in the corral, but I'm also not one of those people that's gonna make my way through the crowd and feel like I'm gonna take somebody's place where I think I deserve to be.
Right, right.
So I just hung back, and it's gonna be a long day, so really what difference is that gonna make? Probably
But
not much.
it's chip timed, right?
It is chip time, but they go by gun time for awards.
Oh, I see. So for a podium, you really need to start up front.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it probably makes a difference too with what kind of people you end up riding with and what packs you get to be a part of.
And did you feel like it was kind of crowded out there or did it thin out?
So for the first 40 miles up until we got to that first like aid stop, it was pretty crowded. It felt like you were riding with a pretty tight pack that whole time. But it was just fun, and there was none of that, like so in shorter races that I've done, the beginning of a race can be very aggressive.
Hmm.
Everybody's kind of even in that neutral start, everybody's fighting and kind of jockeying for their place and trying to weave their way up. There was a little bit of, like, weaving, but nothing aggressive. I think everybody just knew that it was gonna be a long day, so you just kinda held your spot, held your line. We rode out smoothly, and then you hit gravel and everybody is just kind of riding as one, like, big beehive. It's just, at that point in time, it wasn't breaking off into packs or pace lines yet. It was just too crowded.
Okay.
So then, we're riding, the sun's coming up, it's still a little bit cloudy out. I don't remember, honestly, like, how long into the ride, but we get, I don't know, maybe 20 miles in, and you start to see, at one point, the sky is beautiful, but then ahead of you, you're seeing these dark gray clouds rolling in. And then at one point in time, I'm kind of up on top of a hill, beautiful green prairies just as far as you can see on either side of me, and lightning literally rips horizontally across the sky, like across as far as my eye can see, just across the sky in front of me. And people yell, people start like getting worried, and I'm just like, this is incredible. It was just beautiful, and I tried not to let it scare me.
I mean, that sounds beautiful and insane and scary at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there I am riding a titanium bike thinking like, am I a lightning rod? Like, what is the possibility of actually getting hit out here?
Right.
Yeah, and there we are just like riding straight into it, but
Just
I just
awesome.
I couldn't stop smiling.
Oh, that's awesome. So I feel like somewhere around like mile 80, my smile would go away.
Well, so pretty soon after the lightning kind of started ripping across the sky, the rain came and it came down hard and their roads immediately turned to mud. Like it doesn't absorb any of it. So it just became for me it became a cyclocross race at that point.
Okay. So tell me
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, so now you're still riding with a ton of people, so everybody is just now getting like pelted and plastered with mud from all the bikes in front of them. And it for me, and I think for a lot of people out there, it just makes you feel like a kid. Like you're out there just playing in the rain and the mud and just doing it with, your fellow thousand friends around you.
So you're either loving it or hating it at that point, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I just was having a blast. I think partly for me, just to backtrack, like pre-race, one of the questions I honestly kept asking myself was like, "What is my pee plan? Like, how am I actually in the middle of Kansas gonna like, where am I gonna pee?" So
I
as soon
feel
as it
like
started,
this is like the same answer as in triathlon. It's like you just pee, right?
yeah. So part of the concern was like, if it's just like a dry, hot day and I'm out there for 14 plus hours and I'm just peeing on myself all day, like, will I get an infection? So there's that thought. But then as soon as the rain came, I was like, great, I get to pee myself.
I'd be more worried about the other side. Like, what happens then?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've done enough like long distance stuff that I know to not eat fiber for a few days, do the whole carb load thing, and I've never had a problem with
Mhm.
number two.
Yeah. Uh, I haven't either, and I consider myself very fortunate on that end. Although I was reading, I'm totally like going off track here. So like the bicarb systems. Did you ever try that before?
I haven't. When anything new kind of comes out or like something that seems trendy, I always kind of dive into the research on it.
Yeah.
And for me right now, the research that doesn't really show any benefits. I mean, if people, it doesn't hurt you, but if somebody thinks it's going to give them a gain, then by all means, go for it.
So I'm kind of the same way as like kind of watch and see for a little while. But I mean, people have been experimenting with it for a long time. Apparently, a lot of people it has it may help performance, but it creates new digestive issues that didn't exist before.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're messing with like your acid-base balance,
Mhm.
and one of the ways your body tries to buffer that is through the GI system. So,
So, uh, you know, you're cycling through the mud, through the lightning, through the rain. I imagine that you walked out of that portion of the course looking pretty much like you just had a little wrestling match with your bike in the mud.
that's exactly right. I actually remember this one guy pulled up beside me and he looks at me and he was like, "Holy shit, I hope my face doesn't look like that." All I could do was laugh and I'm like, "Yeah, I think it does."
Yeah, I think at that point you probably all look about the same.
Right. And then I hear another guy somewhere around me say, "An open mouth gathers no mud." And I'm like, "Well, I can't really breathe through my nose, so I'm just gathering mud."
Hey, it's something. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But at least it's off the ground and not off someone's tire, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're just adding a little crunchy to all the gels. It's fine.
So was it like during this portion of the race where you took the spill?
No, actually, I completely stayed upright during all the mud, and then we start hitting a couple sections where they consider the roads unrideable at that point, and everybody's just like getting off their bike and starting to hike their bikes. And like in the middle of the road, it's either like completely like mud puddly, and then off to the side where everybody's walking, it's super high grass. So by the time I got there, the sections off to the side where it's the tall grass, it had been trampled over enough that there was enough flattened out with like the grass and the mud that I was like, I think I can ride this. So after a little bit of walking, just because you have to, because once it bottlenecks and everybody's walking, you kind of have to follow suit. I
Right,
was like,
right.
I have like a little clearing of people real quick. I'm gonna hop on my bike and see what I can do. And then people were super respectful. I basically rode the rest. like that, just calling out where I was on your right, on your left, or coming through, and people would move over and were very respectful. They didn't try to block me or not let me through. I just it to me, it was like another cyclocross race, and it just had a blast.
But when you fell, it sounded like you didn't do too much damage other than maybe a bruised ego at that point?
So the fall was right coming out of the 40-mile rest stop.
Okay.
So I kind of like had some renewed energy. I'd just taken a little bit of a break, restocking my stuff. And you come out and you're on road, so you're picking up speed pretty quickly. You cross a little intersection going downhill, still on a road, but then you're making a quick turn back onto gravel.
Mhm.
And by the time I saw that I was turning into big chunky gravel, it was too late. So I just kind of wiped out. It was painful initially, but, the adrenaline of being out there and racing, it kind of takes the pain away. I do have some pretty good, like, superficial injuries. Nothing's broken, but I'm still healing up, like, the hip wound, and I've got some scratches all down my leg, and, I can show you the forearm.
Yeah,
That hurts.
when you showed him to me, I was like, "Yep, yep, it's a pretty traditional spill
Yeah.
injury." I bet that stung quite a bit on your hip, though.
Yeah, it did, but, you just kinda, like, grin and bear it for a minute, and then it kind of, like, your body's endorphin system is a wonderful thing. All that kicks in, and then you just continue on.
Yeah, I think I've only, knock on wood, spilled once in a race. It was actually I think it was a sprint in South Carolina. It was in Charleston. They do this, they have this summer series where it's like every weekend or every other weekend. They have this kinda low-key sprint in a park, and my parents live in Hilton Head, so I was like, "Oh, it's only a couple hours from there." I brought my bike down. This was like 2, 3 years ago. It was, like, right after COVID, and there's a little roundabout. Well, in South Carolina, in Charleston, you're right, kinda, like, near the beach, so everything's kinda sandy, and I was going a little too fast, going into a little roundabout, and they misdirected me. They're like, "Go there." "Oh, no, no, just kidding, it's over there." And I spilled and had an injury that looked exactly like what you have, and same thing, like, no damage to the body, no real damage to the bike. Got up, finished, covered in blood going down my leg. So, like, the whole run course, everyone's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a flesh wound. It's fine." But yeah, like, I think we've all had that experience, right? It's like, something hits you by surprise and you're like, you have just not quite enough time to react.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, I think my goal getting up, so I did have to fix my handlebars because all of a sudden it was, like, tilted, like, 90 degrees upward. I did have to take a minute to fix the handlebars. But then getting moving again, it was just like a quick assessment, like, all right, everything's functioning. I don't think anything's broken. Now it's about like turning the mind away from it and not letting too much mental energy like linger on it.
So you just said something that I think is really interesting because you're also you like me also have a little bike shop of your own, and I think we take for granted that we possess the mechanical skills to fix that, right? I don't know about you, but it sometimes frustrates me that people are out there competing and don't have some knowledge to like fix that particular issue. And if you didn't have that, like you might not have been able to finish the race, or it would have been like, much more uncomfortable, right? So, like, kind of going aside and, a race like that, which doesn't have a lot of support, if you were someone listening considering doing a gravel race or something that has limited support, like, what are the kind of mechanical skills that you think that you would want to see that person have, both as like a coach, but also, someone who is a shop owner and sees these kinds of things?
It's a really great question, and actually kind of to take that topic a little bit further. So I was there with a group of 14 women,
Okay.
and for many of them, they really hadn't ever traveled much with their bike. So the whole packing and unpacking of the bike.
Oh, God.
And, you're the same as me in that, like, we love to support other women and teach them and empower them, and so for me, Yes, I could just jump in and put their bike together for them, but I'm going to show you and teach you. And the more you can do it yourself, the more you're going to feel comfortable doing these things on your own. And I do that with people anywhere and everywhere that I can,
Yeah,
because I think it's important, even if just it means putting your handlebars like back on after you've rotated them and taken them off.
right.
So going into a race like this, I think there probably were a number of people who had to end their day because they didn't know how to fix basic things like this. Even if just like a drop chain, some people don't know. You can make your life super easy by just taking the back of the rear derailleur, pushing it down to ease that chain tension, and then you pull it right back up on that chain ring. So little tricks like that are key to saving some time, but then also just knowing like what can I do with my little multi-tool with these different sized Allen wrenches? Like what goes where? What adjusts the seat? Like, and to be honest, in that crash, my saddle ended up tilting nose down a little bit, and I didn't notice it for a while. And I kept saying, I'm going to stop and fix this because with that rotation, now my weight is shifted forward, and I've got a lot more weight on my arms.
So numb hands and probably getting a bit sore in your quads, maybe?
Not so much. The legs actually handled it quite well, but more just like the neck and the upper back, and then just all the pressure on the wrist. So actually, I do still have a very numb pinky finger from all
Yep.
the ulnar pressure.
Yeah, that takes a couple weeks.
Yeah, it can. It's just really annoying in the meantime. But that was a stupid move on my part. With the goal being for the day to go out and be smart, that was one stupid move
Right.
because I rode six.
But it's totally understandable because, like, as a competitive person, and let's face it, you made it to Kona, so you're competitive, right? You're like, it's not that bad. I can live with it. It's fine.
Yeah, like, in my mind, I didn't think it was that bad, but I did keep saying, like, "Okay, I'm gonna get to the top of the next climb, and then I'll just stop for a minute and fix it." But then I get there and say, "Well, I don't wanna lose momentum, so I'm just gonna keep on going."
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't actually until after the race that I saw my bike and how tilted the saddle was, and I was like, "Oh, shit, yeah, I should have taken the minute."
So even like at the next aid stop, you still continued. All right. Well,
Yes,
then I have to hold you accountable for.
yeah.
You
I
were
would
beat down at that point. You could have fixed it.
Yeah, I actually I would roll I would be a couple miles out from the next aid station, and I'd run through a list in my head of the things that I wanted to do when I got there, and then I'd get there and I'd refill my stuff and forget completely about my list.
It happens. And it's easy to happen too, because you're like fixated on like, what do I need here? What do I need here? And you forget about like, oh yeah, I should also probably do this thing too, right?
Right.
So yeah, I've had the same issue. Like, sometimes you just like go over like a pothole or something and just like, even if it's torqued down properly, you still lose it. And sometimes you don't notice it. Although I'm like one of those people that like a millimeter might as well be a yard. And, I know different metric English mixed up in the same sentence. It's fine. It's like, that tiny little bit I notice and like, I would have to stop. Like, I would be like, oh my God, this is horrible. My bars, on the other hand, I'd be like, whatever, take them.
Yeah. Yeah, so like some other things that people really want to be good at with their bikes
Mm,
and that you'd be surprised that some people just don't know is taking wheels on it,
yeah.
especially the rear wheel.
I think that
Not
intimidates a lot of people.
It really does. And admittedly, like when I was a beginner cyclist, it intimidated me, but I just have always been kind of like a curious student of
Mhm.
the sport, whether it's like learning to be a better cyclist or whether it's learning more about my bike. And so whenever it has come to needing anything fixed on my bike, I will seek out how to learn it and try it myself before having to go to a bike shop, which now I do myself because I am a mechanic and have my bike
Now
shop.
you get paid to do it for other people,
Right.
right? Okay, so I share the frustration, like, when people travel and we're a, bike flights dealer, so, it's like, pack other people's bikes into boxes, and then at the other end, someone needs to reassemble it. And the things that you take apart to ship a bike are pretty basic. Take the handlebars off, take the derailleur off, take the pedals off, and obviously the wheels. Pedals are the ones that kill me the most because, like, if you have, like, a Bike Box Allen or a Scion or whatever, at the other end, most of the time, the only thing you're putting back on is the pedals, and a lot of people go to the local bike shop or, like, if you're at, like, an Ironman man event, like, what's the Play Try, to reassemble it, pay someone $100 to put your pedals on, and, like, today, most pedals are pretty easy to get back on if you know how to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, it frustrates me a little bit to know how much like something like Playtry charges people for those basic assemblies. And every time I go to an Ironman, I'm like, I just wish I had an extra day. I would set up a tent and just like have people line up and like let me come do it for $5 instead of the 80 you're paying over there.
Yeah, like, I don't fault Playtry for or whoever for charging what they charge because, I mean, there's a demand, it's a captive audience, and let's face it, they're paying to have the spot that they have, and we have a spot coming up at Happy Valley and at Ironman Maryland, and, of course, like, we have to be careful not to compete with the other vendors on the same thing, especially Playtry, who pays a lot of money for their sponsorship, but, yeah, it's like, "Hey, I'd love to help you. It's not that hard to do, but, here's go maybe you should YouTube that."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's just a matter of like get the right tool, whether it's a pedal wrench or an 8 millimeter Allen wrench, and you're good to go.
Yeah, yeah, and although you were funny because, like, before we kinda really knew each other, you called me out on one of my videos because I was like, "Hey, here's how you take them on and off," and you're like, you forgot to tell people to put grease on that." And I remember I didn't know you at the time, and I was like, "Really? We're
Oops.
trying to solve this problem, and that's what I get called out for?" And now I'm like, "Yeah, she wasn't wrong, but still."
Well, sorry about that.
But no, it's like it's right, but, I think it's a skill that people should have. I did get caught once without having the right tool, and I did need sag. It was iron and I was like, "Really? The only tool I don't have in my bag?" So, I actually broke my chain at Ironman Chattanooga 2 years ago. Broke a link, and I was having a great race, and, like, mile 21, it just went pop, and I remember I had passed the sag guy, like, 2 miles back, so I was like, it won't be that long." So meanwhile, 5 people called it in, a police officer stopped and he's like, "Are you alright?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have a chain breaker with me." And the guy came and he was like, "Are you sure you don't wanna end your race now?" "No." I'm like, "Can you, like, just take that link out and put a new one?" So now, every multi-tool that I put in my bag and for my athletes, I'm like, "Make sure that you have one that has a chain breaker incorporated in it." Because that stupid little tool that is blindingly simple, it's just a screw essentially, could be the difference between finishing your race and waiting like I did for 75 minutes for a guy to show up to do a 30-second job.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that actually probably ended a lot of days out there at Unbound as well, chain issues, and I think that changing a chain is a skill worth having,
Mhm.
which it does seem a little intimidating, but just having a couple tools and watching a YouTube video, and once you have that skill, it then once you're out there in an emergency situation like that, you know exactly what to do.
Yeah, and, there's some other, like, maintenance things, like, if you're gonna attack something that's important to you and is a long distance, I've started to just put a fresh chain on for, like, a full Ironman because. Yeah, maybe it's $100, but you paid a lot of money to be there. You trained for it and, hotels, blah, blah, blah. So like that one link, that $100 part could be the difference between you finishing and not finishing. So to me, it's become just like part of my race prep is like, all right, we're gonna buy a new chain, wax it, break it, pop it on, and keep our fingers crossed that, you know, it solves the problem, same thing with, like, refilling sealant, which I don't actually expect the average athlete to be able to refill their own sealant. It's not that big of a deal, but, I mean, that is something it's kinda messy, and it's hard to screw up, but it's messy, and most people, I think, don't wanna deal with that.
Yeah, the mess part of it, I will just say real quick about Tubeless.
Uh-huh.
The one thing I think people don't know when they switch to tubeless is the importance of when you put air into your tires to make sure the valve stem is up, not down at the bottom.
Yes.
Because you put the air in, and then when you go to take your air pump off, the sealant just kind of explodes up out of it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so not only is it's not just the mess part, but now you're clogging up your valve stem, and then once that gets clogged and dried in there, you're gonna either lose air or not be able to get air in.
Yeah, I do carry a couple of spare valves with me, not like on the course, but when we travel because and a paper clip, both are quite useful if
Yep.
it does clog, but yeah, that is one downside, plus a little bit more maintenance. But also, like, when you're out there, you still have to carry a spare tube and know how to change a tube, and, like, if it's catastrophic, putting that tube in, it's gonna be a little bit messy.
Yeah, I see the ups and downs of being either tubeless or still running tubes, and that's one reason is if you do get a flat, it either can be easier to just change it if it's a tube, or it can be easier if it's tubeless and you're just popping in a little dart or a plug. But if that's not enough, then switching to a tube is a real pain.
I'll tell you, at Kona, I got there a couple weeks early, rode the course several times, and you remember, like, all the, like, debris that was on the shoulders? Well, I apparently got a puncture in and tubeless tires are pretty tough, right? You know, they're more like car tires than bike tires, and I had no idea. I finished what was a 60-mile just kinda ride. I had no idea until I got back to the hotel and found that there was sealant all over the backside of the bike.
Mm. Yeah, I
Finding
actually
finding a replacement on the island was a bit tough for the tire, but
yeah, on my pre-ride, I actually blew a sidewall. I don't know that I hit anything necessarily. I think it was honestly the heat of the road,
oh, wow.
and maybe a defect in the tire, but the sidewall just blew out. It wasn't fixable. Luckily, I had somebody to come pick me up,
That's
and luckily, their bike shop there is incredible and fit me in the next day.
the one right there in Kona?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, pretty catastrophic no matter what you ride.
Yeah, it sounded like a gunshot.
Well, I bet, you're out there and, tubeless, you tend to ride a little lower pressure, but the
Right.
heat out there on the pavement, I remember on race day, I had one of those silicone handheld water bottles because when I ran the energy lab, I went through in that section when I pre-ran it a few times. I was going through like probably 12 ounces of water in that 10K section. So I brought one with me because I knew there was only the one aid station down there. And on race day, I had set that down on the pavement. When I picked, because my shoe had come untied. And when I picked that back up from retying my shoe, I was like, oh my God, the amount of heat that transferred from the pavement to the bottle. It was like, went from being like, I would say, hand temperature to something much north of that. It was hot. Yeah, there
No.
was a lot of heat there. So back to your race. All right. So you had your spill, you moved on, you continued, which takes a lot of mental fortitude, I think, to get past that. But like, tell me about the rest of the race. Like, it sounded pretty awesome, but like the YouTube videos of like people coming out of the mud and everything, that's pretty something.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, so okay, I get to the 100-mile rest stop,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I'm gonna, yeah, halfway point. I had a payday in my drop bag, so I was like, I'm gonna eat this payday. I just, something solid, something different. It was good in the moment, but a mistake. The peanuts, they're just fat and protein, and then that just sits in your stomach, and I probably reflux those for the next couple hours. And realistically, like a regular sized payday bar, I think it has like maybe 30 grams of carb. So for the volume, I could have just taken a gel. I mean, it's a nice comfort food in the moment, but not worth it in the long run.
But I mean, I do recognize like the value of like that something different to like reset. Like gels get old after a while, and something solid in the belly kind of feels nice once in a while.
Yeah, and it was overall fine, but it just, one of the one of the goals of going into a race of this length is what can I learn from it? Well, that was just one thing I learned.
Said no peanuts was the learning?
No peanuts.
No peanuts. I could see that. Like,
Yeah.
do you think it was the peanut, like, salad? Like, if it was like I'm a big fan of the Smucker's Uncrustables, like strawberry and, peanut butter, like, to me is like, "Oh my god, that's amazing." Mm, on, some of my, like, centuries, I'll start out with them frozen, and by the time I want it at, like, the 60-mile mark, I'm like, "This is just, like, godly right there."
Yeah, I think a PB&J would have been like 10 times better. I would definitely go for that. The only thing was with me having to take my drop bags the day before,
You couldn't do that.
it would have sat, 24 hours in the heat. Now, this is another thing that I've learned for when I do this race next year is
Ready
yeah,
to next.
yeah. Well, we can get to that.
Alright, same distance?
Yeah. No, it's the same distance. It took me 24 hours to come to that decision, but I was laying in bed 2 nights after, and I was like, "Yeah, I could do that better."
So was this a 2 a.m. decision?
I think 10 PM, 10 PM decision.
Alright, so, like, the same time that we always make, like, "What race am I signing up for next year?" decision.
Exactly. I mean, how many times have you been laying in bed and you're just like, "Oh, let me go check this thing out," and then you're signing up for something?
Let's see, every marathon I've ever signed up for has occurred at, like, 2 in the morning, except for
Yeah,
Dopey, like, you can't do that with Dopey.
yeah. So one of the things that I've learned and would change is trying to have, like, a designated support person that can go to the different stops, and then I
Vers
won't have to worry about
versus, like, the service that they provide.
versus the service they provide where you have to take your drop bags the day before, and then they've got hundreds of bags where you spend 10 minutes and they're trying to find your bag. If I have a designated person that I can just roll up to and do the stuff that I need to do within a couple minutes, and then also be able to have fresh food like a PB&J, that would be a big game changer.
So would you bring your spouse for that or someone else?
If she's interested in coming, I would have she's actually a really good Sherpa, and we're not supposed to use the word Sherpa, I think, but
That's news.
we so, the the actual Sherpas that do the trekking up, like, Mount Everest,
Mhm.
like, they are they are Sherpas, and I guess to
Yeah,
use that term for, like, other people is kind of, like, frowned upon.
I hadn't heard that, like, I kinda get that, but I hadn't heard that
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
I
I don't really know what other way of I mean, it's a
Yeah,
support person, but it's Sherpa is just such a good term for it.
it is. I always felt like it was kinda, like, paying homage to, like, a real, you know, Himalayan Sherpa.
That's the way I feel about it. I think they're incredible.
Yeah, because it is a ton of work. It it really is.
Yeah, and that speaks to how much work it is to also do the job for us, whether it's for Ironman or whether it's for this, and you're driving 200 miles in the span of a day to see your person 3 times and help them out for 5 minutes each,
At most.
at most.
At most. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you met my Sherpa. He has, at this point, spent years perfecting the ability to predict what I need that I don't know I'm going to need.
Yes. I mean, it is a craft. It is an art.
Yeah.
Sherpa is a very important job.
Yeah, and then dealing with the exhaustion, the attitude, and whatnot that comes with that.
Yeah, and understanding that it's just in the moment.
Yeah, yeah, it's not you, it's anybody who's doing that, it's not you. WT, like, that's how you feel, it's like, "Oh, finally," and then that thing that you need and want and crave isn't there, it's like, "Oh, man, come on, you should have known better."
Right. You should have been able to predict exactly what I wanted.
Right, right, better than I can, come on, you know me better than I know me at this point.
Yeah.
Alright, so
So
how did the last part of the race go?
so I left the 100-mile stop, and then for 10 miles or so, it was a straight 35-mile-per-hour headwind. It
That's, like, soul sucking right there.
It was to me, I mean, I spent an hour, I think, going maybe the next 9 miles or so, and I just kept thinking to myself, "If this is how it's gonna be, I'm gonna be lucky to finish."
Right.
'Cause,
Now
I'm just
there is a time limit on this, right?
yeah, so you have to finish by 3 AM, so it's a pretty lax, I would say, time limit,
That's
but
what, 9 hours, 18 hours?
I don't even know. So we start at 6:30 to 3 AM.
So,
I have no
like 8
idea.
and a half, kind of
Yeah,
17 and a half, 17 and
yeah.
a half.
Which
Yeah.
which
Long day.
yeah, I mean, things could have happened, and I definitely could have been out there that long given different circumstances, but if somebody tells me it's gonna take you 17 or 18 hours to do something, I'm probably not gonna do it.
Hey, coming back to like triathlon and Ironman, there's an awful lot of people who 17 hours is my goal is 16:59.
And I think it's absolutely incredible. I think those achievements are no less than our achievements at like, 10, 11 hours.
I actually think it's more work, right? You're out there longer, in the heat more, and like fueling is different because not only do you need more of it, but you guys survive on gel probably for most people for a lot longer. And I don't know about you, but gel fatigue is real.
For sure. Yeah, if I now, I mean, so it took me 15 hours to do Unbound.
Hmm.
I If I had to do any longer, I I don't know. I was over it. I was over the gels for sure.
Yeah. So at what point on the bike were you like, I'm done. I just want to be done with this?
To be honest, I never hit that wall.
Okay.
Now, I will say about, I would say mile 180, I started to just get the arm, wrist, hand fatigue,
Hmm.
and that was more of a limiter to me than my legs. So I'm actually really proud and happy at how well like the rest of my body held up, and that my legs felt strong through the entire thing, which actually was 207 miles for me. It's never exactly 200.
Sure.
So and again, that goes back to it being my fault because of not fixing the saddle.
So how do you train for that? And like obviously you've done century plus for a while, but how different is training for a 200-mile plus gravel ride versus, say, like, a century or an Ironman?
Honestly, the training is pretty similar. So for all the centuries and Ironmans that I've done, I typically get up to that 5, 6 hour ride for the long
Yeah.
ride on the weekend. And for this, it's kind of like, ultra running too. Like you can only do so much before it's too much stress on your body and you can't recover from it. And now you ruin your week of training. So you kind of have to find that fine line where you're training to induce enough stress, but not so much that you're taking yourself out of an entire week's worth of training.
So I kind of want, especially our like runners out there, to hear that because I'm sure you do the same thing I do, and you kind of lurk on a lot of different like Facebook groups. I do a lot with not just like Ironman, but the Run Disney stuff, which I understand our Ironman folks don't get the Run Disney, but like it's a different thing. It's fun in a very different way. And you see a lot of folks, especially like people who are doing like maybe their first or second marathon who feel they really need to run the distance to properly train for it. And I think, like, as a coach, I don't really support that. I'm more like, no, I want your long run to be maybe the same amount of time, but not the same distance necessarily.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the running. I mean, running is so stressful on the body. With cycling, you can do a lot more.
You can, but it's kind of like, at some point the risk of injury starts to go up pretty sharply.
Yeah, I mean, you're still doing a repetitive motion over and over for hours and hours. So, the risk of especially like a tendonitis or something like that is definitely high.
Yeah, and, like, on the run, it is very high impact. I'm like, let's cap things maybe 3 hours because I feel like the risk I mean, from everything I've seen and learned and experienced, the risk of injury really starts to increase once you get past that mark for most
For
people.
sure. No, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So training is not that much different. Hey, for someone like me who might want to do that in the future, that's reassuring that the overall volume might not change that much.
Yeah, I think what changed is not so much like the long weekend ride,
Hmm.
but the amount that I would do during the week. So I would build cumulative volume over the week. So I was still hitting like for a week maybe 200 to maybe a max of 250 miles a week total, which is the distance of my ride over the course of the week.
Okay. So for someone who today is on like a 14 to 16 hour like IM schedule, it's probably a little bit more, but it's not like double or triple what you're used to.
For sure. I mean, I probably maxed out at like I don't know, 18 to 20 hours for a couple weeks.
Okay.
But again, that's with increasing bike volume, not run volume.
So, I mean, 18 to 20 hours is probably more than most people are training, but if that's just to add some additional bike volume, I mean, that doesn't sound terrible.
No, no. I mean, and keep in mind too, like I'm also training for Ironman stuff. So a lot of those hours are also swimming and some strength training. So it's not all just
Right.
biking and running.
Now, if you had an athlete come to you and say, "Hey, you know what, kind of what you described," and say, "Hey, you know what, I did the Ironman. I'm not going to do that this year. I want to focus on like this 200-mile race." Would you still include things like running and, cross training like running, swimming, obviously strength you probably would need to keep in there anyways. But would you include that cross training or do you transition to more of a traditional like cyclist training plan?
I think it depends on like any other long-term goals for the year. If they still had any, if they said, I'm not going to run it all for the year, maybe we cut it out. I mean, what's the point? But if long term down the road you still want to be a runner or you still have an eye on some running races, then I would still include a little bit of it. But maybe 30-minute runs here and there, but mostly transitioning to heavy into the cycling, just because you can do so much more with it being non-impact. Now, I do think the body still responds well, and we should have some impact training as humans. It's good for our bones and muscles.
I was going to say, I think, from what I've read and seen and understand, that impact actually serves a purpose to strengthen, our bone density, which can then make us a little bit more bulletproof. Not to use that word too loosely, but a little bit more robust in injury prevention in the future.
Exactly, and so, even for somebody who's not a runner, it's still a great cross-training activity just for that reason, and strength training, lifting heavy.
So I'm gonna go tell my daughter that, who passionately dislikes running, that other people other than just me agree with that.
Yeah, it's hard for any kid to listen to their mom.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the first person they go to for advice and the last person they listen to. At least in my experience in that journey from mama to bruh. We're like we've moved from mama to bruh and slowly making back to ma. It's a journey. So 180, tell us about like, you finished the race, obviously. What was that like?
So, there was, the last maybe 15 miles or so, it did start to get dark. I did have
Mhm.
to turn my headlight on, and
And
it's
that
very
the amp you had on your visor or
I had
your
a I had a light mounted actually, so I had aero bars. And then I had like a little crossbar where I had my Garmin computer mounted and then my headlight, my whatever light.
so you rode gravel with aero bars.
So I put them on specifically because I knew I'd want to give my arms a break over the course of 200 miles. And there are a couple short sections of pavement where I knew for sure I'd be able to use the aero bars. Now, crash mile 40, right? Now I can't use my aero bars. So
Okay. Okay.
they,
So
they served as a mount for my Garmin.
they had a little were they like clip-ons? Yeah. So a little extra weight, a little decoration at that point.
Yeah, yeah,
But the picture.
yeah. So, at some point in time, it got dark, and you could see like the somewhere in the distance there
Mhm.
were those like strobe lights in the sky. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's like home base. Like, is that where I'm headed? Because who else out in Kansas has those going on?
Right, right.
And
And Kansas is not exactly party central.
right. So now here was where every single mile truly felt like 5 miles.
Mhm.
It just felt like forever to get those last few miles done. It was very lonely. It was now dark. I could see like a headlight here or there, kind of like up ahead or behind me, but I was by myself at that point. So
So
it was just plugging away.
the packs are behind you. You can see the finish line and you're in that like, "Oh, man. Are we there yet?"
Yeah. There's one last climb right before you turn onto the finish chute.
Of course.
And there's a guy, he's probably part of the race, but he's standing at the top of the hill. He's just like yelling at you and getting you up that hill. And if he hadn't been there, I was like, I think I'd have to walk this hill.
Mm.
But yeah, so I just like, kept spinning, finally got to that top of the hill. And then it was like any finish line, even the Ironman finish line, where as soon as you hit that red carpet, as soon as I made that turn, and you see the lights and you see the banner and the people cheering and the DJ going, it's just like everything melts away and you're just so happy.
It's like an injection of adrenaline right there at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're like, I could do more. But it's just that finish line adrenaline.
Yeah, but a mile back, you're like, "I'm dead. Are we there yet?"
Yeah. Yeah. No, but the finish line was incredible. Some of the women that I was there with were there waiting for me. And so they just kind of like came around, took some pictures. They took my bike. And this is where, like, I want to talk a little bit about Lifetime.
Yeah.
And what an amazing event they put on. It is so well organized. They really get the community in town like buy-in because they give jobs to these kids. Like they had rows and rows like bike racks and all these kids out there that would take your bike, rack it, spray it down with muck off, power wash it, get everything clean and give it back to you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and that's just one job that they provided.
Hey, I'm like, "Hey, Iron Man, are you listening? You could be doing that to our bikes, so when we get them back, they're not full of, we'll just say, sticky stuff."
Yeah. No, it was just one of those like services that I mean, your bike's a complete disaster at that point. So even to just get it 90% clean and to be able to pack it up and bring it home was just incredible. But from start to finish, from pre-race expo, which was incredible, to literally finish till the 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. finish line, Lifetime was top notch.
That's awesome, and you said the community was, like, super supportive?
That was actually really, really cool. So Emporia, Kansas is a very, very small town in the middle of nowhere. I don't know the population, but it can't be that much. There's like one or two hotels. So it doesn't sound like it could support thousands of racers and their families coming into town, but people literally pick up, leave their home, go to like somebody else's house, like crash in their house to give you their house. And this happens throughout the entire city. And it's just incredible.
So, I mean, this is a big race. There's, like, 5,000 people in this, right? At least according to ChatGPT.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
"Huh, I wonder how many people are there?" And I'm like, "Oh, about 5,000." Big event for a not for, like, a cycling event. That's huge.
Yeah, I know for sure in the 200 there was around 1,600 racers. Only like 10% women, unfortunately. So, women who are listening, come out. You are welcomed into the gravel community. But the nice thing about these gravel events is that they typically always offer different distances. So, Unbound had a 50, a 100, 200, and 350 for the extra crazy folks.
But you're not yet extra crazy, you're only crazy.
I'm half crazy,
You're half
three quarters.
three-quarter. Uh, I don't know, I've known you for a while. I think you're more than three-quarter crazy.
You might be right.
I don't know about the extra crazy part, but, yeah, when I was doing research before we talked, I was, like, on their website, and I'm like, "Wait, it's like 50, 100, 200, and then XL. And it lists it as 350 plus. And like, if I was doing that at like mile 349, I'd be like, that finish line better be in another mile.
Oof.
Not
Yeah.
5, not 10, now.
Yeah. I have to say, like, it makes me feel like I want to say I only did 200 when I hear that all these people out there did 350. But I did get to mile 112 and thought to myself,
It's
I
kind of
should
like
be done.
saying, I only did a 70.3. I only did a
Yeah.
marathon.
I hate that. I hate that. Like,
Yeah.
it's never only. Whether you're doing just a 5K, it is not only. Each race has its own difficulties and its own reasons for being hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do dopey every year. I think this is going to be my seventh or eighth time doing it. And in that event, especially, you get well, I'm only doing the marathon. And
Yeah.
like, there are people whose life goal is to do a marathon or a half marathon or a 10K. It's like, don't just say, like, I only did the marathon. It's like, no, you did a marathon. It's 26.2 whole ass miles. That's a lot.
Yeah. In any given event that you're out doing, whether it's a marathon or even a 5K, you see a lot of people there, and it makes you think the whole world does these things. But you're such a small percent in the world that is actually doing this event.
I mean, even if 5K is only what, like 5% of the totality of humanity will ever do a 5K, and less than 1% is like a marathon. So, like in these ultra endurance sports, whether it's, Unbound, an Ironman, a half Ironman, a sprint, whatever, like these are like 1/10 of a percent or less people will ever do these. And we show up, and like you said, we see all these people in this huge, what feels like a huge community. And it's like, no, it's not that big. We're
It's
just in.
just that 1/10 of a percent all happen to be there right now.
That's right. That's right. I was on another podcast recently and I saw they just like popped a clip of something I said, last year, like Ironman, in their justification for the way they changed the qualification system for Kona, one of the things they put out there was a lot of stats we had never before seen. And one was 50% of people who completed a Ironman last year was their first time doing an Ironman distance event. And I was like, that's really cool that we brought in that many people. The problem is an equal number of people left because we didn't grow the number of people completing the event. So I'm like, as a business owner in this industry, I think we should all be thinking about like, because it's not just Ironman's problem, it's not just USAT's problem, because they've published similar stats that come to the same conclusion that in triathlon, and I think Triathlon magazine kind of had similar stats. Like in triathlon in particular, it's like our total numbers aren't growing. We're bringing new people in, but our total numbers aren't growing. And like, yeah, okay, we're not including a lot of the grassroots stuff who doesn't, report numbers. So it probably is growing and we don't see it. But like, how do we increase that retention? How do we get more in? And like you said, female participation is pretty steady, but it's not huge. And whereas we look at like the running community and like the longer the distance, the more women show up. It's weird.
It seems to be more and more that we're finding out that the longer the distance, the better women are at it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at the races in the last couple of years where like the top finisher is actually a woman, not a man. Was it this year? I forget the race. That is the 200 or 250, right?
Cocodona?
Yeah, where the top, finisher was not just female, but by a pretty significant distance. Like it was like 2 or 3 hours, right?
Yeah, like and smashed all records.
Yeah, yeah, and, we've had a few examples of that in the last couple of years, which is fantastic, but we need more women to show up.
Yeah, and I think they need more incentive to show up, which is another plug for Lifetime for me, is that they essentially they want to grow the female community and in the gravel community itself. And so in a race like Unbound, where you have to enter a lottery and hope that you get picked, pretty
Hmm.
much as a female, if you enter, you will get in. So, if you want to participate in something completely amazing and big like this and be a part of like gravel history and you're a female, just do it.
Yeah. I think not even like no matter what the sport is, it's like just get out there and do it because we need more people doing it. And, whether it's cycling, running, something else entirely, we need more women showing up.
And we need more women supporting women, not just like the thing about bringing women into the community, you need people who are going to support them and show them and help them. So seek those people out. Jill, you're one of them. I'm one of them. If you know us and you're interested in getting involved, like reach out. We are so happy to talk to you.
And I'm going to put a new plug in there that I wasn't planning on, but I'm going to anyways. I hope you're okay with that. We are forming I mean, it's ostensibly a tri club, but we're forming a new club for this reason is there's an awful lot of clubs out there, but what I've seen and I'm not a huge fan of is over the last several years, a lot of them have become a little bit exclusionary or intimidating. And so we're forming this new one. USAT approved it a couple weeks ago. It's called the Be Fierce and Try Club, which, like, shocking, this is the Be Fierce and Try podcast. My company is Be Fierce Multisport. You see some brand consistency going on, right? We're about to open a physical retail spot here in Chester Springs, which is shockingly Be Fierce Training Center. So Be Fierce and Try Club, but it's open to everyone. I don't care who you are, what sport you're doing. Like, come seek us out and join. I really want to create these like really supportive communities, and not just limited to women, but of course, like one of my personal goals is like, how do we increase female participation in these like ultra distant sports? Because as women, we do hard things and we like doing hard things. And, how do we create the support structures to enable women to do the hard things that they actually are really good at?
I love that. So quick question for you about that. So is this, with it being USAT backed, is this something that's going to be like a nationwide team where anybody anywhere can join?
Yeah. So one of the problems, and we were talking about this earlier, is like in order to get these clubs approved, you have to have a website.
Hmm.
So right now I'm in the process of completely because we've grown from like, hey, Jill's a coach to like now we're building like this whole ecosystem where it's retail. We're building a training center which will be opening hopefully in August. And, bike fitting and this club. Now so that's like way more than just like a coaching business. And so now there's new website. So I'm hopefully getting that. I wanted to get out there this week, but it's not ready. So hopefully like in the next couple of weeks. And then, we'll submit it to Ironman and all the other organizations to be included in their list. And it seems like in triathlon, once you're USAT, it'll populate down through like everything. But we also need to get like, with USATF. So it shows up, in like the run clubs and stuff like that. So it's going to take a while, but national, global, I don't know. I like personally, I'm like, if you want to join, come join and we'll add you to the group. There's an existing Facebook group, although we haven't done anything with it because I've been trying to figure out, I'm like, what do I want to do with this group that we created? And I was actually talking to someone today. I'm like, hey, I need someone who is like paying attention to it because I can't be everywhere all at once. And that's as small business owners, like we tend to have that problem. Like we have big ideas, but we end up being stretched too thin. One person can't do everything. So I'm trying to find someone who like they care enough to like every day they're out there and promoting the club and like moderating forums and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm hoping that it takes off and yeah, we'll see.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, so we'll see because on the surface, like, you know, just what we needed is another tri club. But like, I really want there to be purpose. And it's not a brand tri club. I mean, it is, right? But it's not like a clothing brand or an equipment brand or something like that. So it's a little different. And it's, so we'll see. And you should join
Good.
unless you're going to create your own. Because I know
No,
you've got,
no, no. I mean,
you've got a new coaching business you just launched, right? A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I launched Long Game Endurance Coaching, and
By the way, I love the name.
thank you. Yeah, a little play on my last name. But yeah, no, it's just I want to support athletes in any way I can, and that turned into me just creating my own coaching business so that I could offer basically all of myself to the athletes in the way that I wanted. But I am always open to a tri club that is supportive, that I can help support, that I can be a part of. So I'm open to that as well.
All right. Well, we should definitely talk more about that.
Sounds
All
good.
right. So before we end, because we got through your story, I think you finished. And personally, like you've inspired me to go to their website and be like, hey, am I willing to sign up to do some big scary thing I've never done before? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. I don't own a gravel bike, and I have some friends who've been trying to convince me that I should do Cape Epic next year, which I'm like, that might be a different adventure entirely. But anything else you want our listeners to hear about you, your journey, or this race? That sounds pretty epic. I, I was honestly jealous watching all the Facebook posts roll in. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty cool thing that I've never really paid attention to before.
Yeah, no, I think that in general, since I'm part of both like the Ironman and triathlon community and the gravel community, the big differences for me is that gravel, the community vibe is so much more fun. Yes, there's kind of like this party vibe to it. Yes, you have your serious elite racers, like
Oh,
same
yeah.
as you do at triathlon. So you have that wide range, but it's so supportive out there on the course. Everybody wants everybody to succeed. Versus triathlon, it's kind of like every man for himself, every woman for herself, and it's a very, very much more solo sport. This just feels like you're kind of like in it with everybody around you.
The drafting rules in triathlon kind of,
Exactly. Yeah.
but I get what you're saying. And it's funny because like coming, so I was a latecomer, I guess, to triathlon as you know, I was in like winter sports most of my life. And then after I got divorced, I was like, hey, what can we do? And got into running, which is actually why Run Disney has become such a big part of like my life is that's actually how I got back into endurance sports. I was like, oh, hey, this dopey thing, that looks pretty cool. But like, I always viewed triathlon as like really supportive compared to the run community, which can be like, and it's not everyone, right? There's obviously like huge communities, but like it can be clicky and it can feel exclusionary.
Well, I honestly think that you'd be an excellent gravel cyclist. I know that that is definitely a strength of yours. You are a very powerful cyclist. So to just like put that into one bike ride, I think you'd do great.
Yeah, I'm not a very impressive runner, but I can bike pretty well.
Well, I know you can lay down some power, hence the broken chain.
Uh, yeah, I've now broken two chains, and I like, wait, these SRAM chains, I'm not so sure that they have the SRAM red chains. They've both been, and I'm like, they're lightweight, but I'm not sure that they have quite the life that I want them to. So, all right. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining. It's been really great conversation and learning not just more about this particular race, but also like your journey through it. Like it sounds pretty amazing. And the level of resilience that's needed on something that's not just that long, but it sounds like you're really out there on your own and kind of need a set of skills that we're, on this show at least, which is more like triathlon focused, we don't talk about a lot. And I think we do need to talk about more. So, and for our listeners, like if you are interested in learning more about, Unbound, definitely sounds like a fantastic thing to investigate. Your new coaching business, its website is what?
Longgameendurancecoaching.com.
Longgameendurancecoaching.com. So if you want to connect with Lindsay, you can there. And that's, as they say, a wrap for today's episode of the Be Fierce and Try podcast. I'm Jill Bartholomew. I hope that what you heard today was interesting, inspiring, and that this episode helped you to think smarter, train differently, and show up with more intention make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss what's next. And if you are looking for support on your journey to your next start or finish line, I would love to work with you. Here at Be Fierce Multisport, we work with athletes of all abilities, and you can learn more about coaching, training plans, bike fittings, and everything else that we are building at Be Fierce Multisport at the site, befiercemultisport.com. Until next time, train with purpose, execute with intention. And as always, be fierce and be you.